morning, Joe. 7:24 here on the East Coast. President Trump wrote in the Washington Post, quote, "In my first 100 days, I kept my promise to Americans." The piece he wrote reads in part, after decades of a shrinking middle class, open borders, and the mass offshoring of American jobs and wealth, this government is working for the citizens of our country and no one else. The same establishment media that concealed these problems and profited from them is obviously not going to tell this story. That is why we are taking our message directly to America. We are proving that Buy and Hire American isn't just a slogan, it's now the policy of the U.S. government. It, along with the many other things we are doing, will make America great again. No longer will we listen to the same failed voices of the past. The White House is once again the people's house, and I will do everything in my power to be the people's president. Also in the Washington Post, Republican Congressman Charlie Dent and Democratic Congressman Jim Himes co-wrote a piece about what moderate lawmakers want to get done. They write in part, nearly every substantial piece of legislation passed since 2011 has been the product of coalitions between pragmatic Republicans and Democrats willing to put partisanship aside. Now, conditions are right for this formula to become the norm rather than the last resort. The unfolding drama of the long-promised repeal of the Affordable Care Act gave the administration and Congress a bracing lesson in the dramatic difference between campaigning and governing. Ideological purity is a recipe for continued bitterness, a divided nation, and stalemate. Failure to seek commonality or accept incremental progress will threaten more than our congressional seats and reputations. It puts our systems of government at risk. We owe it to our country to do better, they write. And Congressman Dent joins us now. Congressman, good morning. Good to see you.
So hey, thanks, Willie, for having me on the program.
Our pleasure. So let's have you elaborate a little bit on that, if you would. It sounds like you're talking not just to President Trump, but members of your own caucus, perhaps, but certainly to the broader Congress about the way forward here.
Yes, we are. In fact, I guess the big issue is we're going to have another example of just what we talked about in that op-ed this week. We're going to pass an omnibus appropriations bill this week. It's going to require a bipartisan coalition. There won't be 218 Republican votes for this. We know that. And that has been the case for the last several years, whether it was on Hurricane Sandy relief, debt ceilings, continuing resolutions, budget agreements, whatever the issue was, Violence Against Women's Act. We always had to put together bipartisan coalitions over the last several years. I suspect that's going to be the case going forward.
And do you believe that can happen with health care, Congressman? We've seen on the first go-round last month, it was held up by the Freedom Caucus, and now this second go-round appears to be held up by the more moderates in the caucus. Do you see these, not just between Republicans and Democrats, but within your own Republican caucus, these factions coming together to get health care passed?
Well, I have concerns about the health care bill in its current form, along with the amendment that's been offered. I've always argued that we need to do health care from the center out, that we should be working together in a bipartisan way to try to do an adorable, sustainable reform. I suspect we should be working on fixing the individual insurance market, because I know the Democrats know that that's broken under Obamacare, and we should also be working to repeal some of the taxes in the health care law. I think we can do it from the center out, but right now I believe we as Republicans might make the same mistake that the Democrats did, where the Democrats muscled Obamacare through on a partisan basis in 2010. We shouldn't make that same mistake in 2017.
Congressman, how often have you talked to the President about your position and your thinking on this, governing from the middle out?
Well, I've never had that conversation with the President. I have met with him twice on health care, but I've never had that conversation with him on the governing from the center out. I think that we have to get real about this. We all know that to pass important things in Congress, we've always had to do it on a bipartisan basis. I mean, what part of the last 6 years have a lot of people missed in Congress? Everything that we had to do, again, including this week on the omnibus appropriations bill, is going to be a bipartisan coalition. Well, same thing's going to be the case, I know, on the debt ceiling.
Well, Charlie, what's his position when you talk to him about your position on health care? Instead of, we keep hearing, people from the Freedom Caucus talking about opt-outs, and the opt-outs include basically, life-giving elements of health care. What does he say when you talk to him about your position?
Well, the issues I had raised with the President and with our House Republican leadership are these, that the Medicaid provisions in the bill do not provide a soft enough landing. We should be consulting with Republican governors like Governors Kasich, Snyder, Sandoval, and Hutchinson, who gave us a very thoughtful proposal to make sure states have the flexibility and the resources needed to care for people. More importantly, there would not be a cost shift if we adopted their proposal. But as far as I'm concerned, my suggestions on Medicaid have not been particularly well received. The other issue, too, is once people are moved off of Medicaid, they'll be forced into the exchanges. And under the current bill, the maximum amount of a tax credit is about $4,000. So I suspect a lot of people won't be able to afford insurance on the exchanges, so they'll go bare or naked and they'll be uninsured. So those are some of my concerns. Too many people are losing coverage. There's got to be a better way to do this. And I voted against Obamacare, by the way, in 2010, and I've been very critical of the law.
Congressman, it looks like the way the leadership and the White House want to proceed is not following your advice on health care, but to have a partisan-only vote this week on the bill. Do you think there'll be a vote? Do you think it will pass? And do you think anybody who votes for it could lose their jobs because they vote for it?
Well, I don't know if there'll be a vote this week or not. Like with anything else, there will not be a vote unless there are 216 votes for it. The worst thing that you could do is put up a bill and then watch it be defeated. That's the worst thing for the people who will be voting for it. So I really can't tell you today if the votes are going to be there. All I can tell you is the amendment that has been offered does weaken protections for people with pre-existing conditions because states will be able to opt out or waive out of it. So I think that is a very big concern for many of the center-right members with whom I'm affiliated with, who are part of our Tuesday group and Republican Main Street coalitions.
Congressman, your op-ed was about the next 100 days. What was most surprising about the first 100 days of President Trump's time in office for you?
Well, what was interesting, he was able to accomplish some things, particularly on the executive order front. Moving forward on the Keystone Pipeline, as an example, was very important for many of us. And there are other issues on the regulatory side that I thought he made some good progress. I think one of the challenges were the various distractions on crowd size, President Obama spying, and those sorts of issues. So there were too many distractions that were, frankly, unnecessary and self-inflicted. I'm hoping going forward we'll see a little bit less tweeting, a little bit more substantive dialogue on these big issues, whether it's going to be tax reform or health care or debt ceiling, whatever it is. That's where we should be focused and try to avoid these distractions. The president's put together a very strong foreign policy team, in my view, and I think he's seen some successes in that realm. I just returned from South Korea last week, and I feel like we're in a better place than we had been, particularly with respect to China being more helpful.
Congressman David Ignatius has a question for you.
Congressman, let me ask you to look inside this White House and the political balance. It seemed to many of us 3 weeks ago that Steve Bannon, the hard-right economic nationalist, was on his way out, and that there was a chance after the failure of the health care bill for the kinds of moderate voices that you represent to have more say. Now it looks as if maybe Bannon's back on top. Is that your impression?
Well, I don't know. I do know that I'm going to have an opportunity this week in our Tuesday group is going to have an opportunity to meet with Secretary Mnuchin and Gary Cohn to discuss tax reform. But at least on these very big issues, tax reform, it looks like Cohn and Mnuchin are driving the train on that particular issue. So I really can't speak to the dynamics inside the White House, but there is a lot of maneuvering going on. But I'm getting the sense that Cohn and Mnuchin have a great deal of influence.
Congressman, the president in an interview over the weekend talked about the United States system of government. He said it's a rough system, then he called it an archaic system. He thinks some things have to be changed. Clearly, he's been frustrated by his inability to get a legislative win. Number one, do you think the United States system of government, Congress where you sit, is archaic? And number two, what would you advise President Trump in dealing with you all where he could maybe get some victories?
Well, I think we have it's a tremendous system. I'll tell you, the system of checks and balances, it's a wonderful system. It's the best system anybody's yet devised. All the others are worse as far as I'm concerned. Bottom line, I guess if I were the president, I would be moving forward on infrastructure right now. I mean, that's an issue that appeals not only to Republicans, but certainly to a lot of Democrats. And I've always felt from a strategic standpoint, I would have started off with infrastructure, try to attempt to get some Democrats on board. It'd be very hard for Democrats to vote against that kind of funding. So Those are the types of issues I would be pushing if I were the president right now.
And you think that's still on the table, given the back and forth they've had now for 3 months? We're starting with health care, talking about tax reform. Can he still get through infrastructure with Democrats' help?
Sure we can. In fact, one of the challenges we've had over the first few months is too much of the dialogue on health care has been driven by artificial timelines, arbitrary deadlines, all to improve the baseline for tax reform. And now we have a tax reform proposal, a one-pager anyway, that doesn't appear that it's going to be paid for at the moment. That's going to be another debate. But I think there's been too much focus on these timelines, deadlines, and baselines, and so I think that's where we have to change our approach. Let's have this conversation on tax reform. I think they've put forward a starting point. There are a lot of things in there that I do like, and I think we can have a productive dialogue on tax reform as well as infrastructure, and we can maybe even marry these two issues together at some point. I know the No Labels Group problem solvers are also advocating for this type of approach that I've just outlined.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.